The Israeli cabinet has approved for a deal for a temporary pause in the bombings that it is carrying out in the Gaza Strip. And in exchange for this, Hamas will release about 50 of the Israeli and other hostages that it has in its custody. So this is the brief outline of what has in fact been agreed to. The Israeli government has said that it could extend the lull of not bombing the Palestinian territory of the Gaza Strip for an additional day for every 10 hostages that are released. Now, Hamas has welcomed Israel's move and has dubbed it to be a humanitarian truce. In a statement, it has said that 150 Palestinian prisoners who have been incarcerated in the Israeli prisons will also be released as part of this agreement. Now, reports suggest that the first hostages could be released by Thursday, that is tomorrow. So there hasn't been a release of hostages that has taken place yet. There hasn't been a pause in the war. This is an agreement that has now been struck, and the release of the hostages could happen tomorrow. The Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu told a meeting of his cabinet that accepting a deal for the release of hostages was a difficult decision, but it is the right decision. He has stated that Israel will continue its war against Hamas even if a temporary ceasefire is reached with the militant group. Netanyahu has also thanked the American President Joe Biden for his part in the deal to include more hostages and fewer prices. A U.S. official has said that 3 Americans amongst Gaza hostages are set to be released. Now, sources from Hamas and Islamic Jihad who took part in these negotiations have disclosed some details of these negotiations to AFP on conditions of anonymity. They've said that the tentative agreement will include a complete ceasefire on the ground and also an end to this relentless campaign of bombing the Gaza Strip, except the north, where this campaign of bombings by the Israelis will halt only for 6 hours. Now, under the deal, the sources have said there could be anywhere from 50 to 100 Israeli and dual national civilians who could be released in exchange for a greater number of Palestinian prisoners from Israel. Remember, there are thousands of Palestinians who at this moment are rotting in Israeli prisons. Many of them haven't even been officially charged. This proposed deal would allow for nearly about 300 trucks of food and medical aid to enter into the Gaza Strip.
There is idle talk outside, as if after the truce to return our abductees, we will stop the war. So I would like to make it clear. We are at war, and we will continue the war. We will continue the war until we achieve all our objectives. Eliminate Hamas, return all our abductees and missing persons, and ensure that there will be no element in Gaza that threatens Israel.
I believe we are in the decisive moments, and we are hopeful, God willing, for this temporary pause that would stop aggression for some days, deliver aid and swap civilians, for women and children in the occupation's prisons. We cannot go into details because we are nervous that the occupation will delay, which it has been doing for a month. And the closer we get to a deal, they go back.
Now, the families of the hostages have been demanding that Israel should insist on the return of all who are presently in custody of Hamas. Now, the religious Zionist party, a part of the coalition government, has voiced opposition to this deal, denouncing it as bad for Israel's security, for the hostages and also for the Israeli soldiers. And our correspondent Jody Cohen has been tracking the story very closely for us and has sent us this report from Ra'anana in Israel.
The Israeli government has voted in favour of a hostage release deal. This would see 50 living hostages released in exchange for a 4-day pause in fighting and the early release from prison of 150 Palestinian women and under 18 prisoners, including some convicted of attempted murder and involvement in terror attacks. For the first time, the Red Cross could be able to visit the remaining 190 hostages in Gaza. The Israeli opposition, US and EU have all welcomed the deal. The pause in fighting could be extended 1 day for every 10 hostages released, up to a maximum of 10 days pause in total. The fighting is then expected to continue, with Defence Minister Gallant saying that Israel's ground offensive against Hamas was key to pressuring Hamas to negotiate, and that without it, there would be no chance to secure the release of the remaining hostages. This is Jody Cohen for WION World as One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.